I found proof of my wife's cheating with my cousin, so I planned cold revenge and took everything. My cheating wife never thought I'd take revenge, but she regretted her affair with my own cousin. On Monday evening, around 6:15, the doorbell rang, and to my surprise, it was my cousin Ralph. I rarely get home before midnight, so I assumed he forgot my schedule. After inviting him in, I got him a beer, and we watched Monday Night Football while chatting. Ralph seemed disappointed that my wife, Lois, wasn't home, but she had called earlier to say she'd join us after work with her coworkers for a drink. I eagerly awaited her arrival. Lois and I hadn't been making love for over 3 weeks, as she often claimed fatigue or headaches. Ralph left around 8, and I stayed up, dozing off in front of the TV, a rare occurrence for me. When I woke up, Lois's car was parked outside, but she hadn't come to fetch me for bed, which struck me as odd. Finally, we were making love, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she frequently found reasons to say no. It made me question my worth as her partner after repeating this pattern for weeks. Lois asked if she felt too loose, a question that puzzled me. I assured her she was perfect for me, though I knew she wasn't being truthful. From my perspective, there was a moral dilemma. Honesty about physical compatibility was essential, but it needed to be approached delicately. Despite my love for Lois, doubts lingered, even after she accepted my proposal, leaving me uncertain about the future. Returning to my attempts to awaken a slumbering Lois for some affection, her groggy voice muttered, "Oh, it's you." My disappointment at finding her asleep in bed instantly ignited into furious anger. "Who did you think it was, you miserable cow?" I exploded, unable to contain my frustration. "What's going on? Who are you with?" Storming off the bed, I snatched my shorts from the floor and stormed downstairs. Grabbing a beer, I retreated to the patio to cool off and process the tumultuous encounter. It seemed like she was interested at first, but when she realized it was me, she declined. Her tone was dismissive, like, "Great, him again." As I stared at the night sky, I questioned for the first time if her claims of spending time with friends were genuine. Doubt crept in, and then the realization hit me. How would I afford a detective to uncover her secrets? It seemed she could read my mind, yet showed no remorse, as if she thought, "Oh well, he knows now." Feeling restless, I opted to watch TV instead. Finding a blank tape, I popped it into the VCR and settled in to watch last week's NCIS. The video revealed everything. I paused it and quietly checked upstairs, finding Lois already asleep. Returning downstairs, I resumed the tape and witnessed my wife with my cousin in the bedroom. The camera angle suggested it was hidden in the closet, capturing their actions. The betrayal stung deeply, and questions flooded my mind about how many times this had happened. Suddenly, a stranger's voice broke the silence. What did I do to deserve this? Lois's panicked exclamations drew my attention. She frantically dialed a number, urging someone to answer. Seizing the phone, I confronted her, causing her to recoil in fear. "Why don't you retrieve the tape, Ralph?" I demanded, warning him to stay away from me in the future. With a vow to attend family gatherings, I promised it would be his worst day ever. I slammed the phone down, glaring at Lois. "Thanks to you and my idiot cousin, I don't need a private investigator. You handed me all the evidence," I spat. Retrieving the tape, I kissed it and played it on the TV. Lois trembled, asking, "What will you do? What do you think?" "I'm divorcing you," I snapped. "I don't want a divorce," she pleaded. I scoffed. "Why not? You clearly don't care about me." Ordering her to leave, I hid the tape and made coffee, compiling a to-do list for the morning. Though our state lacked a no-fault divorce law, infidelity could sway the court's property division. Discovering her infidelity surprised me, but at least I hadn't added her to the house deed. As I made the list, I heard Lois leave. I pondered the rapid shift from love to hate and focused on what I could do next, grateful for the resources available online. As I headed to my room, I noticed the blank tape I had left on the TV was gone, and I smiled, hoping Lois had taken it without watching it. Back at my computer, I secured my finances, transferring most of our joint account funds to my personal savings and canceling joint credit cards, leaving my own intact. Satisfied with my efforts to protect myself, I slept soundly. The next morning, I promptly left for the bank, securing a safe deposit box in my name only and transferring valuables from the one Lois accessed. At the office, I instructed my secretary to intercept any messages from Lois, informing her of our impending divorce. With each action, I asserted my independence, ready to face the challenges ahead with determination. Myra informed me that Alan wanted to meet me urgently upon my arrival at work. Upon reaching his office, Shirley, his assistant, directed me straight to him. "You're late at a bad time," he remarked as I entered. You need to be on the next flight to Atlanta. Morgan's company is refusing to sign a new contract, and I need you to handle it. I expressed my hesitation, explaining my need to deal with Lois, who posed a threat to my home in my absence. Alan assured me, offering to handle the legal matters through his trusted lawyer, Bert Ellsworth, whom he recommended highly. He arranged for me to contact Ellsworth on the road to the airport, with a reserved flight by Shirley. I reluctantly accepted the assignment, recognizing its importance despite my personal concerns. Rushing home, I packed and secured the house before heading to the airport. On the way, I contacted Ellsworth, who provided advice and assured assistance. After navigating airport security, I checked in at the Delta counter and waited in the boarding area for my flight to Atlanta. As I mulled over the lawyer's advice, I spun a tale to Ellsworth about Ralph's threats to Lois, concocting a story to justify a restraining order. If he tries anything, I'll knock some sense into him, I falsely assured Ellsworth. I overheard Lois saying she'd love to watch, I added, layering the deceit to keep Lois at bay until my return. Despite the falsehood, I felt justified, considering Lois's own deceptions. Ellsworth assured me of the restraining order's feasibility, but warned of a hearing in 10 days to finalize it. My trip to Atlanta proved fruitful, as I swiftly resolved the contract issue, earning Alan's praise. He informed me of the locksmith visit and his son-in-law's plan to safeguard the house during my Atlanta trip. I made courtesy visits to 2 other clients before boarding Flight 720 home. Checking my phone, I found multiple missed calls and voicemails, mostly from Lois. Deleting her messages, I listened to Ellsworth's urgent plea, urging me to call before matters escalated. Ellsworth's voicemail confirmed he secured a protective order that afternoon and would serve it on Lois at her workplace the next morning. Grateful to Alan for the recommendation, I thanked him. Returning home at midnight, a sheriff's deputy approached, asking for ID. Showing my driver's license, I thanked him for watching the house, assuming he was Alan's brother-in-law. He handed me a ring of keys, explaining that all locks in the house used the same key. Lois had visited twice, getting angry when denied entry. Inside, I noticed the answering machine blinking but exhausted. I turned off the phone and slept in. In the morning, I checked the answering machine and found all messages were from Lois, repeating the same plea to call her. Too late, honey, I thought. At work, Myra informed me of Lois's persistent calls but assured me she hadn't connected with her. I thanked her, expressing gratitude for her support. Myra joked, "You say that to all the girls," as I kissed her forehead. In Alan's office, I updated him on the situation and thanked him for his help. Alan asked about my plans next. "Get on with life. Maybe find someone who'll put up with me," I replied. Alan encouraged me, saying things would improve over time. Returning to my office, I focused on work. I called Ellsworth, who confirmed the papers would be filed by 10 and offered to serve them to Lois before lunch. I agreed, and Myra invited me to lunch. We went to Trattoria, where she offered support, knowing the challenge of divorce. I could use some cheering up, I admitted. Myra handed me a paper saying, "Here's today's cheer-up attempt." Glancing at it, I found a list of names. "What's this?" I asked. "A list of girls interested in you now that you're single again." Flipping through, I noticed a few surprises. Liz Fisher from accounting? Isn't she engaged? She was, but she kicked him out after catching him cheating, Myra replied. "Do you really think she's into me?" I asked. "I know she is. She once said she'd snatch you up if you were single," Myra confirmed. I scanned the list again, 7 names, and besides Myra, 2 others might catch my interest. "So, you're saying they're all interested?" "I've heard them express interest in you," she confirmed. I grinned. "I noticed your name isn't here. I considered it, but given the circumstances, I'd rather not," she explained. "Why?" "Because besides being married, you've just begun your divorce due to your wife cheating," she reasoned. "I figured dating a married woman wouldn't be on your mind." "You gamble," I thought. "You and Harold were solid," I remarked. "We were, until I found out he was cheating with his secretary." "Instead of divorce, I'm opting for kindness," she admitted. "You're wrong. Even knowing you're married wouldn't stop me." "You should have put your name," I said. "You'd be perfect for me right now. Now I know you're joking." "I'm far from perfect," she laughed. "That's where you're mistaken. You have one characteristic, a lack," I teased. "And what's that?" she inquired. "You're married, and they're not. You'd have to explain that," she remarked. "Right now, I don't need an emotional connection. It would be too easy to get involved with the 3 on your list I'm interested in. You're already engaged and seem keen on retaliation with your husband. If we got involved, it would be strictly physical," I explained. "Are you serious?" she asked. "Absolutely," I affirmed. "Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't pursue a married woman, but if she's free, that's a different story," I clarified. What about a long lunch then? She suggested. Not today, but tomorrow I'm free, I agreed. It's a date. Hypocritical? Not at all. According to Ellsworth, once Lois received the divorce papers, we'd legally part ways. At 2:45, Lois called, knowing she'd likely been served. I answered. What do you need? I asked bluntly. Why can't I get into the house? What's with the divorce? Why are my credit cards not working and the protection order? She demanded. Just out of my mind, I replied curtly. Your cards are inactive because part of divorcing a cheating wife involves canceling her credit cards. And you can't enter the house because you're no longer living there. And I don't want you in, I explained. You need to stop this, Dave. Losing half your assets over a little fling? It meant nothing. I love only you, Lois pleaded. I see it differently. You cheated, making you a strumpet in my eyes, which is why I filed for divorce, I retorted. We should discuss this face to face, Lois insisted. Surprisingly, I agreed. Where and when? She asked. Not tonight. I've barred you from the house, I replied. You can't keep me out, she protested. Actually, I can. The house is mine, not yours. You'll retrieve your belongings with a court official present to ensure fairness, I stated firmly. Let's just talk it out, she suggested. Not here, I insisted. You're being unreasonable. Where then? Lois demanded. Tomorrow, 6 p.m., Angelina's restaurant. We'll have privacy, I proposed, ending the call. I pondered whether Lois truly believed her excuses would sway me. Sadly, the answer was yes. Why wouldn't she think I was naive? I let her off the hook for years. That evening, I hit the landing strip lounge after work, hoping for a pick-me-up. It was open mic night, so I hoped for some laughs. I sat at the bar, and Karen greeted me. The usual, Dave? She asked. I usually get a PBR and some good company. I've got a keeper, Karen said, pouring my beer. Then a woman took the stage for stand-up comedy. A surveyor stopped by Will's farm in eastern Minnesota and announced he had some bad news. I've discovered that your farm is not in Minnesota. It's actually located in Wisconsin. Will let out a huge sigh of relief and said, That's the best news I've gotten in a while. I was just telling my wife this morning that I don't think I could stand another winter in Minnesota. She laughed and continued. The New York City Department of Education reports that only 26% of the city's 3rd through 8th graders passed the English exam. But on the other hand, they're too bad at math to realize how bad it is. 2 more comedians followed her act, and I departed, feeling notably uplifted compared to my arrival. Maybe there's some truth to the old adage that laughter is the best medicine. The next day at work, as soon as I settled at my desk, Myra reminded me of our lunch date. Despite a hectic morning, Myra and I headed out for lunch at 11:30. On the way to the Marriott, I asked if she truly preferred eating before our plans, to which she chuckled and quipped, being entertained on a full stomach slows me down a tad. I checked us in under the alias Mr. and Mrs. Ralph Tomlinson, a fitting nod to Lois's affection for donkeys. Once in the room, we wasted no time getting to lovemaking. The remainder of the day flew by, and it was soon time to rendezvous with Lois at Angelina's. Arriving ahead of her, I secured a booth in the quietest corner, far from the dance floor. Ordering my usual, I settled in to await her arrival. When Lois showed up 5 minutes later, she looked as stunning as ever. Normally, her presence would stir certain desires in me, but knowing her actions in our marriage killed that impulse. As she sat down, she ordered her customary Cosmo, visibly irritated when I requested separate checks. Sipping my beer, I prompted, All right, Lois, you called this meeting, so what's on your mind? Honestly, Dave, you could have been more courteous, given the circumstances, she said. Lois, you're lucky I haven't torn you apart. Speak up, or I'll walk out. With a sigh, she said, You're blowing things out of proportion, Dave. We don't need to divorce. I love you, always have, always will. My affair with Ralph means nothing to me. Yes, it happened, but it was just physical. Most of the time, I can't stand him. He's never posed a threat to you or our marriage. Why did you prioritize him over me if he means nothing to you? I asked. I didn't. Yes, you did. Reflect on the past 6 months. How often have you been there for me? Mostly reluctantly, doing favors. Think about the last 3 weeks. I've heard your excuses every night and stayed out of it while you've been enjoying yourself elsewhere. And you call that love? Being exclusive to me? It hasn't been that brief. It certainly has. For 3 weeks you've been avoiding me, and when you finally say you'll be home, you just go straight to bed and sleep. When I tried to initiate something, you were all for it until you realized it was me. Remember that, Lois? Oh, it's you. I'm tired. Leave me alone. That's all, Lois. That's all you said. And then that tape was the last straw. Then why even tell Ralph these things? Because Ralph likes hearing it. He has some pathetic need to feel superior to you. I tell him these things to boost his ego. There's nothing wrong with you in bed, Dave. You've always satisfied me. Then why seek pleasure with other men? It's not other men, Dave. It's only Ralph. So you don't consider it cheating on me if it's just Ralph? That's not what I meant. Regardless, whether it's one man or many, enjoying another man's company while married is cheating, no matter how you spin it. Answer me this, before seeing that tape, would you say our marriage was good? Maybe okay, but not great. I dated Ralph before we got married, and it didn't affect us. Did you entertain my idiot cousin before we tied the knot? Yes, I did. Then why marry me at all? Because I love you, Dave. I don't even like Ralph that much. Then why are you enjoying yourself with him? Because he provides something you can't. Look at it this way, Dave. Think of Ralph as just assisting you with me. You're crazy if you think you can convince me of that. If that's all you want to discuss, then we're finished. I began to rise from my seat, and she interjected, "You'll never persuade me, Dave, that infidelity is acceptable. You lack any evidence to support that claim. Don't forget, I have the tape you and Ralph generously made for me. Are you certain?" "Absolutely," I affirmed, walking away from her. As I made my way to the door, a grin crept onto my face. Apparently, she hadn't checked the tape she took from home, unaware it was blank. Just as I reached for the car door handle, I heard the click of her heels and turned to find Lois half walking, half running in her high heels. I marveled at her speed in them. Hastening toward me, she pleaded, "I need to get into the house, Dave. I need my clothes and belongings." Though I knew I was being insensitive, I felt entitled to it. "Have your lawyer contact mine to arrange it," I replied, sliding into the car. Rolling down the window, I bid, "Goodbye, Lois," and drove off as she called out, "Wait, Dave, just a minute. I could have allowed her to follow me home and retrieve her things without inconvenience. It wouldn't have inconvenienced me, but at that moment I was thinking, forget her. If she didn't already have a lawyer, it would take her a day or two to find one. Since it was Thursday, I wagered the soonest she could secure one would be Monday, with another day needed to organize her return to the house. By then, I'd have packed all her belongings in garbage bags, showing little care in the process. If I were lucky, she'd have to take everything to the dry cleaner or laundromat before using them. Was I a bit resentful toward Lois? Not really. My relationship with Lois was smooth sailing. I slept soundly that night. On Friday, I had another lengthy lunch with Myra. As a particularly busy period drew to a close, Myra inquired about my weekend plans. Upon learning I had none, she proposed, "Would you like to spend the weekend with me?" "I'd love to, but how will you keep it from your husband? He's going fishing this weekend. He packed up this morning, and we leave straight from work. I'm at your disposal from now until noon on Sunday if you need me, that is." "Silly girl, let's see. Dinner and dancing tonight. Then play at home Saturday morning. Wake up and more playtime, dinner and dancing Saturday night. Followed by more play at home, Sunday morning play until noon. Then brunch. Sound good?" "Sounds great. But how about we skip the dancing and focus on playing?" "That won't do. Your energy never seems to fade, and mine needs a break sometimes." "All right then, your plan it is." After returning to work, I informed her I'd pick her up at 7. "Pack for the weekend," I instructed, "since you won't be returning until Sunday." Upon arriving home, I discovered Lois hadn't wasted any time searching for a lawyer. Upon entering the bedroom to change, I noticed part of Lois's dressing room was bare. Most of her belongings were gone. Curious, I investigated how it had happened and found a broken window in the family room facing the patio. Though I couldn't prove Lois was responsible, I derived some satisfaction from spotting blood on the glass shards, indicating she might have injured herself climbing in. I located a glass company in the Yellow Pages, scheduled an appointment for the next day, and decided to leave the mess until morning. With my decision made, I headed upstairs, showered, and dressed for my outing with Myra. We dined, danced, and indulged in drinks. Although we retired at 11, sleep eluded us until 3, leaving us utterly exhausted after Myra had her fill of me. I set my watch for 9, anticipating the arrival of the glazier between 10 and 12. However, Myra woke me at 7:20 in a delightful manner. While awaiting the glazier, I tidied up the broken glass, completing just as the glazier arrived at 10:10. By 10:40, the repairs were finished, and by 11, Myra and I were enjoying a late breakfast at Trattoria. Following our meal, I inquired what Myra would like to do next. "Just relax and cuddle, that's all I want," she replied, and that's precisely what we did. Buoyed by our spirits, by 5 we opted to order pizza and continue our leisurely day. We decided against closeness on a full stomach, opting instead to lounge on the couch and watch TV for an hour or two. However, our TV viewing was abruptly interrupted mid-program. Sunday morning dawned, bringing with it the realization that I would have to return Myra to her husband. This realization sparked a thought, which I voiced over pancakes at the village inn. "How much time do we have left?" I inquired. "What do you mean?" Myra responded. "When are you planning to leave me?" I clarified. "Why do you think I'll leave you?" Myra questioned. "From what you mentioned about flirting with your husband," I explained, "I was under the impression you were just casually flirting, not involved in a serious relationship." "Maybe," she responded. "But it wasn't my intention. Typically, the men I encountered became possessive, wanting me to leave Harold for them. However, none of them could match Harold's lifestyle," Myra disclosed. "I couldn't fathom trading a comfortable home in a nice neighborhood for a one-bedroom apartment, wondering if we could afford bills each month. Plus, they weren't any better in bed than Harold, and they were messy," she continued. "And I always wore my wedding rings," Myra admitted. I failed to see the logic. "You sought out attention, knowing they were aware of your marital status," I remarked. "True, but I wasn't seeking a replacement for Harold. I just wanted retribution," she explained. "Holding on to them if they were skilled in bed didn't imply emotional attachment," Myra confessed. "I admit, if they started stalking me, knowing I was married, do you think I could ever trust them if I made the relationship permanent?" "So I'm just another fling?" I asked. "Don't be ridiculous. Of course not. I've been working for you for over 5 years now, and in all that time you've never once flirted with me. Consider what brought us here, love. I pretty much gave you an open invitation. You made it clear that you'd never pursue a married woman, and you didn't. I offered, and you had the good sense not to refuse. If anything, I'll be the one to end it. I can assure you of that. If it does happen, it won't be any time soon," Myra said, smiling. "Do we have time for one more before I have to take you home?" She grinned, and we drove off. As I retired Sunday night, I felt like one of the happiest men in the state, maybe even the neighborhood. On my Monday commute to work, I reflected on my relationship with Myra and realized it couldn't continue, at least not in the same manner as over the weekend. I was suing Lois for infidelity, and if she hired a competent lawyer, one of their first moves would be to find something on me to use as leverage. If I got caught with Myra, Lois could count on that, but I wasn't willing to go without her for the duration of the divorce proceedings. I had already endured enough deprivation while married to my unfaithful wife. Upon arriving at work, I summoned Myra to my office, explaining the dilemma and seeking her input. "I have a couple of ideas, but I'm not sure if they're feasible," she began. "Tell me, and let's see," I encouraged. "You have 3 uncomfortable customer chairs here. You need to replace them with a comfortable couch so visitors can sit comfortably," she proposed. "I can arrange that," I agreed. "Then you often stay late at work, so naturally I'll need to stay late to assist you. After we install the new couch, you'll leave, and I'll wait 4 minutes to allow anyone watching you to follow, ensuring they won't see me leave," she suggested. "That should work," I concluded. "Here's another option. I'll leave for lunch before you, head to the hotel, book a room, and call you with the room number. Upon arrival, take the elevator to the 2nd floor where the conference rooms are, then use the stairs to reach the designated floor. However, we can't do this often. Attending too many conferences may arouse suspicion. To ensure I'm seen at a conference, hang a Do Not Disturb sign on one of the conference room doors before anyone arrives via the stairs. But ultimately, they'll need to witness us together. If we arrive and depart separately, we'll be fine," she added. I instructed Myra to schedule the conference for the next day and then sent her off to work. With a busy day, I didn't get around to ordering the couch until around 4. Without waiting for approval, I ordered and paid for it myself. At 5, I called Myra into my office and informed her she needed to tell her husband that she would be working late on Thursday. "The couch will be delivered around noon." "How did you arrange everything with HR and accounting so quickly?" she inquired. "I handled it myself. No need to involve them," I replied. Seeing no one around, Myra kissed me as the door to the office was open, then remarked, "I was hoping we wouldn't have to wait until Thursday. Don't forget about tomorrow's conference with the Ajax guys," I reminded her. "Shoot, how did I forget?" she exclaimed. Despite the encounter with Lois parked in the driveway when I arrived home, I remained in good spirits until I spotted her positioning her car in the middle of the driveway, preventing me from accessing the garage. To allow her to leave, I parked accordingly. As I stepped out of my car, she approached me, stating, "We need to talk, Dave. Things are escalating." I brushed past her, heading to her car, opening the door. I reached for her purse, tipping its contents onto the seat. After counting the money and pocketing it, I tossed the purse back on top of the pile. "You still owe me $14 for the broken window. We have nothing more to discuss," I asserted. "Dave, I love you, and I don't want a divorce. We can work through this." "It doesn't have to end," Lois pleaded. "No, Lois, there's no way we can salvage this, especially after learning you betrayed me before we even married. It's over between us," I declared. Lois was deflated. I had hoped you'd see reason, but I knew deep down you wouldn't. If you're set on divorce, I'll fight you. I won't accept infidelity. I know the laws here, and I won't settle for a 70-30 property split, she warned. I'm sorry you won't hold yourself accountable for what you did to me, but infidelity remains a fact. You'll have to prove it, Dave, and you can't. It'll be my word against yours, and I'll deny it vehemently. I'll claim you're attempting to swindle me out of my fair share of our property. You might even face consequences for it, she threatened. You seem to forget I have visual evidence of your infidelity with my cousin. No, Dave, I haven't forgotten. I grabbed that tape as I left the house and promptly destroyed it. It's your word against mine, and without proof, you'll lose. You destroyed it? Ralph will never forgive you. He needed that tape desperately. He might even lose interest in you for destroying it. Can you grasp that I don't care about Ralph? Yes, I desired what he offered, but I don't require it. I need you. I shrugged, stating, You still owe me $14 for the window, then distanced myself from her and entered the house. She persisted relentlessly, pounding on the door and ringing the bell for a solid 10 minutes before finally departing. Watching her retreat down the driveway, I smirked. Clearly, she destroyed the tape without verifying its contents. A surprise awaited her. I wanted her to engage a lawyer and contest the divorce. I desired her to accrue debt, spend thousands on legal fees, only to discover I still possessed the tape, rendering her expenditures futile. I slept peacefully that night. My Tuesday conference call with the Ajax representatives went smoothly, leaving me in high spirits. Upon returning home from work, Wednesday wasn't too shabby either, especially when Myra suggested a quick encounter on my desk at day's end. After ensuring everyone had left, I acquiesced. Upon completion, I reminded her of her late shift on Thursday. On the way home, I opted to stop by the Landing Strip Lounge, my favorite restaurant. Unbeknownst to me, it was hosting an open mic night, making it a challenge to find a vacant seat. Eventually, I secured a spot at the bar. I happened to be present when Bobby Denton passed the microphone to a trailer repair mechanic employed by Triple T Sales and Service in Franktown. This individual was quite intelligent, holding degrees in both electrical and mechanical engineering. One day, while driving home, he heard a radio commercial that struck him as a blatant falsehood. Contemplating this, he sketched a plan for a lying robot. Upon returning home, after refining his blueprint, he constructed the robot in his basement workshop over a span of 6 weeks. When completed, he tested it in his living room. Coincidentally, his 14-year-old son arrived home 2 hours late. Inquiring about the delay, the man's son claimed he had lost track of time while playing cards with friends. With a lull in the proceedings, I finished my beer and departed for home. The following day brought 2 positive developments. Firstly, my lawyer informed me that Lois's legal counsel had reached out, indicating her intent to contest the divorce. This news brought a smile to my face. Secondly, my black leather couch was delivered. Opting for leather was strategic, anticipating the inevitable stains it would endure. This foresight proved beneficial, as Myra and I left a few stains on it later that afternoon. The subsequent weeks flew by, marked by frequent encounters with Myra, mostly on the couch after work. However, on 3 occasions, we utilized the conference room, acknowledging the superior comfort of the bed over the couch. During this period, Lois called me almost daily, expressing her need for me and insisting that I couldn't prevail. She suggested we accept the past, move forward together, and forget everything. Although I could have ended these calls by changing my phone numbers, I derived a perverse satisfaction from informing her she was wasting her time. Meanwhile, Ellsworth and Lois's lawyer were occupied with legal matters. I hoped Lois's lawyer billed by the hour, as I had negotiated a flat fee with Ellsworth indifferent to the duration of the proceedings. Ellsworth was aware of the tape's existence, yet he never disclosed it to Lois's attorney. They negotiated with the other attorney, proposing that if I changed the grounds for divorce from infidelity to irreconcilable differences and agreed to an equal property division, Lois would cease her resistance. I instructed Ellsworth to decrease the split from 70-30 to 65-35, knowing she wouldn't accept. Ellsworth informed me that he must notify the opposing party about the tapes before presenting them to the judge, as failing to settle beforehand would anger the judge. I authorized Ellsworth to use his discretion, as that was what I was compensating him for, right? It seemed Lois had someone tailing me, or at least that was my suspicion. I suddenly noticed a stranger nearby, seemingly appearing wherever I went. It might have been my paranoia, but then again, maybe not. Another week elapsed, and Ellsworth called. Lois and her attorney wished to meet. I instructed him to arrange it and inform me of the time. He later notified me, Friday at 10 in the morning. I arrived early at 9:30 and discussed matters with Bert. We decided to have the tape present at the meeting, but I wanted to toy with Lois one last time. The meeting commenced with the usual banter. Lois denied the infidelity accusations, claiming I was being unreasonable. Then I interjected, reminding her of the tape she and my cousin made. "No, I don't," she retorted confidently, aware of the lack of evidence to support my claim. "I'll make you a deal, Lois. If you sign the papers now, I'll agree to a 60-40 split, but you have only 2 minutes to decide. If not, I'll leave it to the judge." "I won't agree, Dave. You have no proof," Lois replied stubbornly. "Sure, Lois, I have a tape of you and Ralph," I stated confidently, anticipating her reaction. And just as I hoped, she became enraged, blurting out, "Damn it, Dave, I already told you I destroyed the damn tape." "Oh, so you admit to infidelity and destroying evidence?" I remarked, watching her eyes widen in realization. "No, that's not what I meant," she backtracked. "Never mind, Lois. I offered leniency, but your stubbornness, as usual, led you to reject it. Let the courts decide." Lois's lawyer then interjected, "If you indeed possess evidence, you better reveal it now." I gestured to Ellsworth, and as he moved to press the play button on the TV VCR positioned at the table's end, I stated firmly, "This is your final opportunity, Lois. I'm willing to settle for a 60-40 split, but once he presses play, the offer is rescinded, and we proceed to court." "Screw you, Dave. You've got nothing on me," she spat. With that, Bert pressed play, and I rose, declaring, "See you in court, Lois," before exiting the room. Before I even left the building, my phone rang. It was Bert. "They're interested in making a deal." "No thanks." I offered her a way out, but she refused, so full steam ahead. My actions only escalated Lois's phone calls. I disconnected the house phone, and Myra knew not to pass on Lois's calls to me, leaving my cell phone as the only means of contact. I kept the same number to toy with Lois, finding amusement in the numerous unanswered calls from her. As for my personal life, Myra was providing more than enough excitement. 3 days after the meeting with the attorneys, Myra approached me saying, "We've got a problem, a major one." I panicked, fearing her husband had discovered our affair. "How serious is it?" I inquired. "Pretty serious. Harold needs to fly back to Ohio for some issues regarding his parents' inheritance. He'll be gone for a week." "So what's the dilemma?" "How do we manage a week together?" she asked. I pondered for a moment before suggesting, "Simple. You leave work half an hour before me, drive to my place, park a block away, ensure all curtains are shut tight, and when I return home, we'll have our time. In the mornings, I'll leave for work, potentially drawing any pursuers with me after waiting a brief period to ensure I'm in the clear. You'll head to work. We'll repeat this until the weekend, when we'll devise another plan." "What about a weekend plan like this?" she proposed. "I keep up the routine, but on Friday evening, when you return home, we stay indoors the entire weekend. Do you think you can handle spending 2.5 days with me?" "What I'm unsure of, dear, is whether I can survive 2.5 days with you," I joked. "We won't know until we try." So we went through with our plan, and I made it through the weekend. However, once it was over, I found myself feeling a bit down, especially when Myra returned home to reunite with her husband. I had grown accustomed to Myra's presence. She provided good company, and we got along well. Yet deep down, I knew that once my divorce was finalized, I would be seeking a replacement for Lois. I valued the idea of marriage and longed for a fulfilling relationship where I could fall asleep in the arms of a loving partner who would be there in the morning. While I could envision having that with Myra, she never explicitly indicated that she would leave Harold. I sensed that she was content with him, aside from his occasional mistreatment, and was prepared to remain with him as long as she could reciprocate. Recalling the list that had ignited our affair, I mentally reviewed it. There were 3 names on that list, none of whom seemed suitable to be my spouse. 2 of them smoked, a habit I detested due to growing up in a household where both my parents were heavy smokers. Liz from accounting, the only smoker among them, was indeed attractive, but I considered her too young for me. Our age gap suggested we might lack sufficient common ground. A brief encounter in her office, where she was listening to rap music, a genre I disliked, reinforced this belief. While entertaining the idea of a fling with Liz might be tempting, I doubted we could sustain a lasting relationship. These reflections occupied my mind during my Monday morning commute. Once at work, I found myself swamped with tasks, too preoccupied to dwell on personal matters. In fact, I was so occupied that I had to decline when Myra popped her head into my office, asking if we were going to lunch. Right before I wrapped up my workday, Bert Ellsworth called. He mentioned that Lois was eager to resolve the matter. "I understand your stance on bargaining," he said, but offering her a 60-40 deal to sign immediately might be wise. Infidelity typically influences asset distribution, but with 2 out of 7 divorce judges being women, they often lean towards a 50-50 split, regardless of grounds. We might end up with one of those judges. Settling now could be in your best interest. After about 30 seconds of contemplation, I instructed him to propose a 65-35 deal and gauge her response. During the downtime, Myra entered my office requesting some time on the couch since she missed her extended lunch break. I granted her request. The following morning at 10, Ellsworth called to report that Lois had agreed to the 65-35 offer. He mentioned she would arrive on Wednesday at 5 to sign the papers and requested a brief meeting with me. Although I saw little purpose in it beyond giving me another chance to confront her, I wanted to conclude matters swiftly to avoid further inconvenience to Myra. I informed Bert that I'd be available at 2 to accommodate her request. We convened in the conference room and I took a seat, waiting for her to speak her piece. Recognizing my silence, she took a deep breath and expressed, "I don't want this, Dave. I know you may doubt it, but I love you. Perhaps we can find a way to reconcile and stay together." "Absolutely not, Lois. Not after discovering the extent of your infidelity. Let me be frank. If it were a fleeting affair, I might consider reconciliation. Suppose you had a series of regrettable encounters before our marriage, followed by years of fidelity until one resurfaced, leading to a brief affair. I might have been able to forgive that. But a long-standing affair before we even committed to each other? No chance whatsoever, Lois. There's no resolving this. You lavished love on the man you claim to barely like, while the one you profess to love went weeks to months without it. It's futile, Lois. It just is. Is that all? Please, give us a chance, Dave, she pleaded. I can't, Lois. I'll never trust you again, and I refuse to live like this. I rose and made my way to the door, pausing. You're an attractive woman, Lois, so I doubt you'll be single for long. If you find someone, I hope he treats you as poorly as you've treated me. With that, I exited the room and headed to the landing strip. Taking a seat at the bar, Karen served me a PBR and asked, "Where have you been, handsome?" "Dealing with a divorce, and not in a very social mood," I replied. "I'd stop in for a beer or two and unwind." "So, does that mean I'll have a chance to charm you now?" she teased. "I thought you were content with your boyfriend all these years," I responded. I was, until I realized he wasn't what I thought," she said, flashing a smile. Deciding I'd had enough, I signaled for the bill. As Karen returned with my change, she flashed a smile and said, "When your divorce is finalized, don't forget about me, all right? I can manage that." "Take care," I replied, leaving in high spirits. Karen's interest in me was unexpected. Once Lois signed the papers, it was all settled. Despite awaiting the final decision, I felt liberated, free from the fear of being watched. Myra and I could abandon our clandestine meetings. Around 10, Myra entered my office, asking about lunch plans. "Yes, I'll leave around 11:20 and book a room," I informed her. "However," she responded, "that won't be necessary anymore. Lois signed the papers yesterday, so we don't need to worry about avoiding something that might not have happened." At 11:30 we left for the Marriott. As the door to room 403 shut behind us, we leaped onto the bed. While we dressed, Myra posed a question. "What now?" "What do you mean?" I countered. "I mean, now that you're free," she clarified. This took me by surprise, but I quickly formulated a response. "As long as you want me, honey, I'll stick around, but eventually I'll seek a wife. I enjoyed being married." "What qualities would you seek in a wife?" she asked. "She should be attractive, love me, have the strength to tolerate me, and be a decent cook." "I can cook," she offered. I paused, realizing her true intention. In response, I stated, "If you meet the criteria, I'll prioritize your application, but there's a catch. I won't engage in bigamy." She looked puzzled for a moment until it clicked. She beamed. "Don't worry, love. Harold's days are numbered." And a concern crossed my mind, evident in my changed expression. Myra noticed and inquired, "What's wrong, kid? What's on your mind?" "We've reached a point where we don't need to hide things from Lois, but now we have to conceal matters from Harold while you navigate your divorce proceedings." "I may be mistaken, but I doubt it's necessary," I explained. "I'll present him with a choice, infidelity, or irreconcilable differences. I possess ample evidence of his infidelity. If I threaten to expose him, he'll likely opt for irreconcilable differences to protect his career aspirations. Harold aspires to climb the corporate ladder, aiming for a vice presidential role. However, the CEO and several board members are devout Christians. His chances may diminish if his affairs come to light. While it might inconvenience me for a week or two in a motel, we can handle that, can't we?" Myra reasoned. Myra's strategy unfolded as planned, and she wasted no time executing it. Following my suggestion, she arranged a meeting with Ellsworth for Friday. She requested Bert to draft 2 sets of documents, one citing infidelity and the other irreconcilable differences. Just before the bank closed on Saturday at 11:45, she withdrew half of the checking account, all her savings, and 4 of the 6 CDs from the safe deposit box. Returning home, she gathered Harold's belongings that he had left in pursuit of gold, loaded them into her car, and checked into a motel. By 3, she returned, prepared dinner, uncorked a bottle of wine, and while dining with Harold, revealed her awareness of his affairs, backed by PI reports on 3 of them. She asserted she had reached her breaking point and intended to divorce him. She detailed her financial actions, offering to relinquish her share of the house, which exceeded her bank loan. Presenting him with divorce papers, she outlined his options and set a deadline of 10 Monday morning for his decision. Departing with a smile, she left the dirty dishes for Harold. As anticipated, Harold phoned her on her cell, opting for irreconcilable differences. On Wednesday, they convened in Bert's office, where Harold signed the documents. Myra opted to remain at the motel over the weekend to let the situation settle. Later, she moved in with me, and we planned to cohabit until our divorces were finalized, then wed. However, this posed a dilemma. Myra excelled in her role and wished to retain her job, yet our company prohibited relatives from working together. While we could both stay, one of us would need to relocate. Unfortunately, the nearest facility for transfer was 90 miles away, impractical for us. Hence, we decided to conceal our marriage. Myra retained her surname, preserving her health insurance until, if ever, we were discovered. Then Myra would resign and seek another job if she desired. She didn't really need to work, considering my substantial compensation. She checked out of the motel on Sunday and moved in with me by 3 p.m. The following 2 months passed swiftly without incident, and I began to unwind and lower my defenses, a significant error. Lois called once or twice a week, and I typically answered to dismiss her, deriving satisfaction from doing so. I should have anticipated her persistence. On a Wednesday evening, Myra and I were at the landing strip, enjoying a drink or 3. We frequented the place occasionally, not necessarily on Wednesdays, as it had always been my preferred spot. However, we were there that night to support one of the accounting girls trying her hand at performing. We applauded Shelley's effort, but both Myra and I agreed she was better suited to her job than show business. Her routine began with a scenario where a man engrossed in reading the newspaper gets struck on the head by his wife with a frying pan. "Why did you do that?" he inquired. "For the paper I found in your pocket with Jenny's name," she retorted. He explained that Jenny was the name of a horse he bet on at the races. Apologizing, she resumed her chores. Days later, as the man watched TV, his wife punched him again, this time with a larger pan, causing him to lose consciousness. Upon awakening, he asked why. "Your horse was calling," she quipped. After some laughter, the storyteller continued. An elderly couple, despite mutual disdain, remained married for years. Their arguments often resounded late into the night, with the old man threatening to haunt his wife after passing away, which frightened the neighbors, who suspected him of practicing black magic due to odd incidents. Upon his demise from a heart attack at 85, his funeral featured a closed casket. At the burial, neighbors expressed concern to his widow about his potential return. She scoffed, asserting she'd buried him upside down, confident he wouldn't ask her for directions upon resurrection. "You keep your damn hands off my man, you damn strumpet!" Lois's voice cut through the air, dripping with venom. I whirled around to see her pouring a drink over Myra's head. Before I could react, Myra retaliated, splashing her own drink into Lois's face. Lois stumbled to the floor, and I wasted no time grabbing Myra and pulling her out of there. As I started drying us off with some rags from my trunk, Lois stumbled out of the door, her footing unsteady from a blow to her nose. And who was there to help her? None other than my prick cousin Ralph. I dropped the rags and yelled, "You rotten son of a cow," and launched myself at him. He let go of Lois, who collapsed, and then he bolted. I chased him for 3 blocks before giving up and heading back to the parking lot. When I returned, I found Myra pinning Lois against the car's fender. Myra was screaming at her, "Get it into your stupid head, you stupid cow. I didn't steal him from you. You threw him away, and I was lucky enough to catch him." As I approached, Myra backed away and said, "Let's get out of here. Get in the car. I need to go inside and straighten things out with Joe." I found Joe inside and assured him there was no damage. He even joked, "Next time, do it during intermission so the customers have something to look at when no one is on the mic." Back outside, I saw Lois waiting for me at the entrance, but Myra was already in the car. Lois stepped toward me, pleading, "Please, Dave, give up the divorce. I'm dying, baby. I need you. I love you, and I know we can work this out. You must be the stupidest human being on the planet, Lois," I said, shaking my head in disbelief. "Here you are, professing your love for me, while your current date is the reason behind your divorce. And to top it off, you're not even discreet about it. You need to let it go, Lois. The only feelings I have for you are hate and disgust. Leave me alone." With that, I walked around her, got into my car, and drove away. Both divorces were finalized. I proposed to Myra, but she surprised me by saying, "Ask me again in a year, baby. Let's see if we're truly right for each other after living together for a while." I waited a year and proposed again, and this time she said yes. We opted for a civil ceremony at the Justice of the Peace, as we didn't want another big wedding. Lois ended up marrying Ralph, but their marriage didn't last long. It turned out Ralph had been cheating on her with several other women, one of whom gave him a disease that he passed on to Lois. While cheating on me seemed acceptable to her, being cheated on was a different story entirely. She couldn't tolerate it. 6 years after my marriage to Myra, Ralph made the mistake of attending a wedding that I also happened to be at. I kept my long-standing promise to him. It may be a while before I receive another invitation to a family celebration,